Hello children, in the last class we have studied the responses of animals to various abiotic factors. Like we have studied about regulation, conformation, migration as well as suspension. All these are actually an adaptation. Because of this adaptation, animals can respond to various abiotic factors. Now, this adaptation can be a morphological one, a physiological one, a behavioral one. We'll try to understand these things with certain examples. The first example is kangaroo rat. This kangaroo rat is found in the desert of North America. They can survive without water for many days or even months. They meet the need of water by oxidation of fat which is present in its body. The fat is oxidized, and by this oxidation, byproduct is formed. That byproduct is water. This water they utilizes for metabolic activity. Okay. Secondly, they excrete concentrated urine. As these kangaroo rats are mammals, they can regulate, the kidney can regulate the concentration of urine. So, they can excrete concentrated urine. By excreting concentrated urine, they can conserve water. So, these are certain physiological adaptation due to which the kangaroo rat can able to survive in that desert area. So, this is the physiological adaptation. Physiologically, they modified themselves to adopt that environmental condition. Second example is xerophytic plants. The xerophytic plants are found in desert like opentia, and you can see the cactus. These are xerophytic plant. They are found in desert area. You might have seen the opentia and cactus. They do not have leaves. The leaves are modified to spines. Their leaves get modified to spine. Why the leaf gets modified to spine? You know children, through the surface of the leaf, transpiration takes place. Transpiration is a loss of water in the form of vapor. Okay, so in order to prevent this loss of water, the leaves are modified to spine. Moreover, when the leaf is modified to spine, what happens? The function of the leaf is taken over by the stem. So, what is the function of leaf? The main function of the leaf is photosynthesis. So, photosynthesis is carried over by the stems. Stem become flattened and it is very dark green in color due to the presence of abundant chlorophyll pigment. So, they can perform photosynthesis. Moreover, we can see in this desert plant sunken stomata. Sunken stomata. What do you mean by sunken stomata? Stomatas are present on the surface of the leaf like this. Okay, on the surface of the leaf. Okay, but in the desert plant, what happened? These stomatas are placed in a pit like this. They forms a pit like this, and stomatas are placed over here. By placing stomata over here, again, they can prevent or reduce the rate of transpiration. Okay, like that, they can conserve water. Moreover, they are having a thick epidermis. The thick epidermis also helps in reducing the transpiration rate. Now you can see that there are certain morphological modification. So these are the morphological modification. Plant modified itself morphologically in order to adopt that xerophytic condition. Now again, this plant is undergoing a different pathway of photosynthesis. That pathway is known as CAM cycle. In CAM cycle, the stomata remain closed during the daytime and it opens in the night time. So by this change in the opening and the closing of stomata, what happen? During the daytime, what is there? The temperature is more in comparison to the night. So when the stomata is closed during the daytime, they again can prevent, or you can say reduce, the transpiration rate. So this adaptation of this CAM cycle is a physiological adaptation. So what you have seen here in this xerophytic plant, xerophytic plants, they modified morphologically as well as physiologically in order to adopt that xerophytic or desert condition. Okay, children? Next, third example, we'll write here, third example, that is desert lizard. This desert lizard undergo basking. What do you mean by basking? Basking is a process in which the animal or the organism exposes itself in the sunlight. Okay, so when the body temperature reduces, it comes out and exposes itself in the sunlight so that their temperature rises. When the temperature rises, they again move into the shady places. So it is a behavioral change. Next, in some desert animals, they, in order to escape from the heat, they undergo a process known as burrowing. They make holes in the soil and enter into the hole in order to avoid heat. Okay, these things are known as behavioral adaptation. Next, we'll see the fourth one is mammals of polar region. These mammals of polar regions are having small appendages. What do you mean by appendages? That is the external growth like pinna, snout, arms. These are the appendages. They're having a small appendages. When you compare the polar animals with that of the desert animal, they're having a large pinna. Okay, from the pinna, they can remove the excess of heat. In polar region, here the mammals are having small pinna. They can minimize the loss of heat. Okay, they can also conserve the heat. This is known as Allen's rule. This is known as Allen's rule. Okay, there is one more rule which is known as Bergman's rule, in which says that the polar mammals and birds are huge in size, okay, in order to conserve heat. Okay, that is known as Bergman's rules. If you see seal is having a thick layer of fat just beneath the skin, that is known as blubber. Blubber. You can see in seals. Okay, so this helps to conserve heat. Okay, this is known as morphological modification. Morphologically, they modified themselves to adopt this polar environmental condition. So children, now you see, we have studied various examples by which we came to know that how organisms morphologically, physiologically, and in a behaviorally, they had modified itself to adopt their environmental condition. Our next topic is population attributes. These are the two terms. One is population, second is attributes. So what is population? Population, it is a group of similar organism in a particular area. That is one characteristic feature of a population. Next, they interbreed to produce offspring. Okay. Next, they share or compete for same resource. So this is the population. That means a group of similar organisms in a particular area. They interbreed to produce offspring and they share or compete for a same resource. So then what is attributes? Attributes are certain points used in the population. The first attributes is death rate, or birth rate. Death rate or birth rate. So this term death rate or birth rate is used for a population. It is never used for individual. For individual, we use the term death or birth. So how it is calculated? Suppose we are taking an example like pond. In a pond, there are about 20 lotus are present. Okay. After 1 year, the number of the lotus after 1 year, you can write here as 1 year, the number of the lotus is increased. That is, it become 28. That means 8 more lotus is added into this population. Okay. Now, when we use the term birth for an individual, we say that 8 more lotus is added. Now, when we calculate the birth rate is 8 more is added divided by earlier 20, that gives 0.4. The birth rate is 0.4. Similarly, we can calculate death rate also. Okay, so this is known as the first attribute, death rate or birth rate. Next attribute is sex ratio. So in a population, we can see different males and females. The percentage of male and the percentage of female varies. So when we take the percentage of male and female in a population, it is known as the sex ratio. Suppose it may be 60% males or 80% female. So that is known as the sex ratio. Third attribute is age distribution. Age distribution. In a population, different age groups can be seen. So we can divide the age group like pre-reproductive, reproductive, and post-reproductive. It varies from organism to organism. Suppose when we talk about human beings, the pre-reproductive age of the human beings are below 14 years and the post-reproductive age is above 50 years. In between this age groups comes the reproductive age. Okay. Now, when we group this particular age groups in one bracket will get a pyramid. That is known as the fourth attribute, that is known as the age pyramid. Age pyramid. Okay, again this age pyramid is again divided into three, that is expanding, next is stable, and third one is declining. So these are the three age pyramid. We'll study these things with the help of a clippings. Let us see the expanding pyramid, in which the pre-reproductive is maximum, that is individual under 14 are maximum. All the number will reach to the reproductive age. When they come into the reproductive age, they will produce more and more offspring. So the reproductive age is shaded with blue color, pre-reproductive age is shaded with yellow color. This will cause population growth. When this pre-reproductive population enter into the reproductive phase, they produce more and more population, and that will cause population growth. This is known as expanding age pyramid. This type of age pyramid can be seen in India as well as China. In case of stable population, pre-reproductive is much smaller than the pre-reproductive of expanding. You see, the pre-reproductive of expanding is much larger than the stable one. Smaller number will reach at the reproductive age, so the population remain stable. Example is Austria. This country has more or less stable population. The next is the declining, where the pre-reproductive is much smaller. See the pre-reproductive, it is much smaller. Number of pre-reproductive is least, so the less number comes to the reproductive, so they produce less offspring. So the population is going to decline. Such population is called declining population. So you can see this in Japan. Keeping this in mind, the government of their countries take up various measures. In case of expanding population country like India and China, the rules are, if you have smaller family, the government is going to give incentives. In case of Japan, the government gives incentives if the couple have second child, and suppose if the couple have third child, more and more incentives they'll get. Government try to help the people either to control the population or to increase the population by giving various incentives. The shape of the pyramid reflects the growth status of the population. Our next attribute is population density. So population density is the number of organism of a particular species per unit area. The number of organism of a particular species per unit area is the population density. So it is represented as N, capital N. Okay. Per unit area, this area may be per square meter, or it may be per square kilometer. It varies from organism to organism. Suppose when we take the example of bacteria, bacteria are small organism. For their growth, they require a very small area. Okay, but in the case of human being, we require a large area. Okay, now I'll try to explain this population density with an example. Let us take an, you can say A. Okay, and there is another area of same size, say B. The size of this area, let us say 200 or 100 square meter, 100 square meter. Here also 100 square meter. Now in this A, suppose we are taking 25,000 organisms are there. Here we are taking 75,000 organisms. In which area more density is there? In B. B is having more density in comparison to A. We have taken both the same area, but the density is more in B because here it is having 75,000 individuals or organism, here only 25,000. Okay, so this is known as the population density. So what is population density? Number of organism of a particular species per unit area. It is represented as N. Now, our next attribute is population growth. Population growth is affected by various factors. Try to understand with the help of an example. Suppose we are taking an area in which a particular species is there. So we'll call it as the population density of that species per area, per unit area. Okay. So this population density may increase. Suppose we are taking the first factor as natality. What is natality? Number of birth in a population during a period. Number of birth. Number of birth in a population during a period. So birth means what happened? The population density increases. Next attribute, next factor is mortality. So what is mortality? Mortality means number of death. Number of death in a population during the period. Number of death. So death means it is, that is, there is a reduction. There is a reduction in the population density. Now, next is immigration. Immigration. What is immigration? That means that particular species when comes from outer place and they come into this particular area. They are entering into this particular area. So as they are entering into this area, what happened? The population density increases. So immigration increases the population density. And next is migration. So what is immigration? When that species move out of this area. So when they move out of this area, what happened? The population density decreases. Okay, so what you have seen, the population density decreases due to immigration and mortality, and the population density increases due to immigration and natality. Okay, suppose we are taking the population density is represented as N. Population density at N at time t, and then the population density at time t plus 1 equal to Nt plus B plus, what is B? B is the birth rate. Capital I, what is capital I? That is immigration minus D, what is D? That is the death rate plus E, what is E? E is the immigration. Okay. So that forms the population density of a particular area at particular time t plus 1. Now, this population density increases when B plus I is more than D plus E. When B plus I, birth rate, plus immigration is more than death rate plus immigration, the population density increases. Population density decreases when it increases. Population density decreases when B plus I is less than D plus E. If B plus I is less than D plus E, then population density decreases. So, these are the factors which determine the population density of a particular area. Is it clear, children? So, children, what we have studied today in this class? We have studied adaptation. So, organisms adapted itself, they modified itself morphologically, physiologically, and there is a behavioral change in order to adopt their particular environmental condition. Again, what we have studied in this topic, we have studied that population attributes. What are the population attributes? That is the death rate and birth rate. Death rate and birth rate is used for the population. Population attribute is only used for the population. Okay. So, next we have studied sex ratio. What is sex ratio? The percentage of male and female in a particular population. Next we have studied age distribution. What are the age distribution? Age distribution in a population, we have seen that various age groups are found. Okay, it can be divided into pre-reproductive, reproductive and post-reproductive age. So, this pre-reproductive age is before reproductive period, that means in human beings below 14 years, and the post-reproductive in human being is above 50 years, and in between this comes the reproductive, right? Now, when we group this age groups in a particular, we keep it in a particular bracket, we'll get a age pyramid. The age pyramid may be, it is divided into three, that is the expanding, stable and declining. Okay, age pyramids give the status of the population. Okay, now we have studied the population density. So, what is population density? We can say the number of organisms per unit area. Okay, population density can increase or decrease depending upon certain factor, that is natality, mortality, immigration and immigration. Okay, children. So, I hope you might have understood this topic nicely. In the next class, we will study about a growth model. Okay. Now, we'll see in the next class. Till then, take care, be safe. Thank you.